and welcome to Virasat, the Alumni Podcast. I'm your host, Jisha Joseph, joined by my co host, Jayesh Rana. Today, we are thrilled to host an exceptional finance leader, Mr. Rajesh Bondri, sir. As the saying goes, according to all aerodynamic laws, the bumblebee cannot fly because its body weight is not in right proportion to its wingspan. But ignoring all these laws, the bee flies anyway. Rajesh sir's career reflects this spirit, breaking the barriers and excelling in every role.
Currently a finance leader at the Amazon headquarters in the United States. He has over 23 years of experience spanning Amazon, General Motors, Nirma Petrochemicals, and Tata Telecom. From managing international expansions to serving as CFO for North Africa region in the United States, his journey across industries and continents inspires resilience and innovation. Stay tuned as we delve into his remarkable story and uncover invaluable leadership insights. Welcome, sir. It's an honor to have you. Thank you, Jisha. Thank you, Jesh, for very kind words. And they are very, they feel very motivating. And I'm glad to be here after almost 30 years. And I passed out when probably you would not have even born. So I can see as I did the tour around the faculty, things were so different at that time. So very glad to be here. Very, very glad that you are all hosting me, and hopefully you will get something which you can take back as you plan your own career journey. So very happy to be here. It's an honor, sir, to be hosting you. Absolutely, my pleasure, and thank you for bringing me here. Pleasure is all ours.
I invite Ms. Vishwa Manyar, member of Design and Media Committee, to felicitate sir. So let's begin with our first question regarding his educational journey. Sir, can you share your journey from FMS Baroda to becoming the CFO of Amazon?
Yeah, glad. It's a pretty long journey. As you can see, this picture which we had taken back in 1994, so more than 30 years. My journey started with General Motors, and it so happened that just like MSF organizes these functions, we had one of the event where we had invited some companies for uh, for displaying the products, and it so happened that each one of us was given one leader of the company to be their host, or just like you are doing this. So I was tagged to the MD of General Motors. It so happened, and I was with him all along. And then at the end of 2 days, he comes and says, "Hey, do you want to work for General Motors?" And General Motors had at that time just announced their plans to come to India and set up a plant in Halol. So I said, why not? So he said, okay, here's my visiting card. Now I don't think we have a visiting card anymore. So he gives me a visiting card and says, come and meet the HR people. So we go there, and I interviewed, and they said, yeah, let's do that. And then he says, what else? How many people else are there in your campus? And I listed down the names of the people, and they were like, I was the first one, and then we were other 5 or 6 of them. So we said, I want to hire all the 6 of them. So this batch here, probably four or five of us, at least 3 or 4 of them, we all got hired in General Motors on one day itself. So and then our campus was like 30 people batch or 27 people. So 6 of them, like 25% of the class, was hired on day one in one company, and we all went there, and it was like extension of the classroom into the office. So that's where I started my journey in finance. And my first role actually was counting cash. Yeah. We and the good thing was we had a vice president who was from US. He actually showed us how to measure cash. Like he was so methodical that he would put bunches of currency notes like this, then 10 like this, then 10 like this. He was so patient in teaching. He even taught us how to staple the documents. He was so particular. So that when we started that, then we moved on to accounts payable, treasury, almost 10, 11 years, all functions of finance, which we never, you know, a great foundation for that. In the mid of this 10 years, I did a stint in Nirma. Nirma had set up a in Alindra here. They were setting up a petrochemical plant. So they wanted somebody, and I by nature, I want to do something which is from grounds up and building up. So that was an opportunity to set up an office. And then in one of this, so happened that when this gentleman or this VP who had hired me in General Motors, he was leaving back to his assignment was finished. So there was a farewell, for arranged for him, and he invited even the ex employees who were there. So I landed there, and then the next VP who was there, he introduced him, saying that, hey, this is Rajesh. We hired him from FMS, but after 2 years he left, and now he's working somewhere else. So this new VP comes and says, why don't you come back? So I said, I can come back, but you need to give me something different. So I come back, and then I rejoined General Motors, and then after that, I kind of said, okay, I would like to do something even beyond what is there in India. So the first opportunity came in Korea, where General Motors was opening up a plant in collaboration with Daewoo Motors, and they had at that time Cielo vehicle in India. So they set up together about, since it was an integration of an M&A activity, so they set up a 10-member integration team in Seoul, and I was one of them for finance processes. So when there, we created the finance processes and all of it. And then I came back to India, and then after that, a year or so, I got another opportunity to go to Shanghai. That's where I took on the role of the regional role. I said, hey, I've done so much in a country. I want to now expand and go to look at the this that. So we had an Asia Pacific office, international office was the headquarters was there. So in Shanghai, I did for 5 years, and then I had a chance. Should I go back to India, or should I, continue somewhere else? And I said that, hey, I have done a regional role. I want to now at least do a global role. So that took me to Detroit. At that time, General Motors was going through bankruptcy. So 1 year I held back, and I said, hey, and then I was looking at some of the projections of the company, and I said, till the company comes out of bankruptcy, I'm not going to go to US. It came out of bankruptcy after, I think 37 days or something, or 50 days. At that time, the president was Obama. So GM came out of bankruptcy. I went to Detroit. It was 2.5 years, and that was a global role. But the role which I wanted was a full-fledged finance leader role, CFO role. And at that time, the opportunity came in Egypt. And Egypt was also very accidental that in 2013 there was the Arab Spring Revolution, and the leader who was there was removed, Hosni Mubarak. So, and Cairo was actually burning. So we had there the CFO who was from America, and he said, "I want to go back to US," and nobody was willing to go to Cairo. And I said, I raised my hand and say, "Hey, this is an opportunity I will not get." So I raised my hand and I went to Cairo. It was a CFO opportunity for North Africa. Very challenging period, very, very challenging period. In fact, the day I landed, I came to know that the factory was closed because of, foreign exchange issues. So I spent 3 years there, and then, like, even back home, my parents were worried that, hey, why are you leaving US and going to Egypt? But again, that was then, and then I came back to India, and at that time I didn't come to Halol. My position was in Pune. So at that time, by the time I came back, General Motors had a second plant already. So I was the VP there, and then yeah, 20. It was like almost 20 years. And then I was thinking that, hey, I don't want to retire in a one company professional. So and then by the time e-commerce and new industries that come up. So I said my challenge to will be how can I apply my traditional background to a e-commerce company. And then I said I cannot. I looked at Facebook, Google. Google was not. I mean, when Google was at that time not so. This. I looked at Facebook. I looked at Google. They were like very tech companies. So I said, let me have something which is at least some amount of my let's say non-tech background. And so Amazon was the closest, and it was it had supply chain warehouses. So I went to I applied. It was a blank call to Amazon. I just applied through LinkedIn to one of the leader there, and they said, "Hey, are you interested to work and with the background?" I said, "Yes, we can do that." And then we said, "Okay, for my education, for my son's education, he was with us all through. We wanted to say, hey, maybe that might be good work for him from my education standpoint." So we went to US in middle of 16, and I joined operations finance there, North America. And then because my background was so international, I said I would do something on the international side. So I took over this position 5 years back as head of finance for all of cross-border or exports. So in other words, if you are, let's say, in a country now, which is, let's say, Australia, and you buy something from Amazon in US, then it's counted as my business. So you buy something on a website which is not of your country, and it is delivered to your country. So it's a $6-7 billion business just for exports, which I had. Um, just to clarify, India doesn't come under my portfolio. India is separate by itself. So yeah, that's kind of thing.
It's always challenging to get into the peak. Everybody wants to get on the peak, but it's always challenging. So we would like to know, our viewers would like to know, what were the challenges you faced along the way?
Yes, that's a very important question, and something which you all I would like to leave with all you. All through the journeys, the challenges are probably on, let me say, three parts. On my side personally, trying to learn the business environment and business nuances in different countries is very is a different uh, exercise itself. Like you need to know how the gap works in Egypt, in China versus US. The business practices are different. So getting ourselves updated in terms of knowledge, in terms of business practices, for me, that's a um, many times balancing the professional requirements with the family responsibilities. That's also a challenge. The third challenge is in terms of is these relocations which happens. You have to manage, moving between the countries. That's it. But more than me personally, the challenges are also on the family side. Like in my case, my wife had to give up, decided to give up her career. She was a MS University lecturer for almost 12 years here. So when we decided to take the first assignment in China, she gave her back because we had our son who was just 2 years older. So to take care of family. So from that perspective, a big part of my career growth is attributable to her her sacrifice, I would say. She has, as a supporting spouse, creating those social networks in different countries is a different challenge. um, from my son's standpoint, he had almost eight schools. So this frequent school changes, making friendships, losing the friends, again bringing it up, those are also challenges. But at the end of all these challenges, we might think, hey, is it worth it? So from that standpoint, it really is worth it because it builds resilience in you, adaptability. You get to know a lot of cultural nuances or cultural education, I would say, which you find here. And then fourthly, it also kinds of brings us ability to say, how do we balance my let's say family relations, maintaining relations with family in India and moving out, building a social network outside, outside the country. So that makes it worthwhile. That hey, you should, especially in today's interconnected world, that's very important.
So now we would like to ask you questions regarding your professional journey. You have dedicated 18 years to General Motors, progressing from manager of finance to vice president. So how has your journey been?
As I said, I owe a lot to my let's say my being in General Motors in terms of, as I said, every function which was I came to know, I learned at GM. As I said, I started with accounts payable, accounts receivable, audit, budget and business plan, treasury, asset management. So these were some of the functions at that time, and you could see here. Oh, that's my vice president, the one who hired me. His name, I think he's no longer there. He's Heath Sheldon. He showed us how actually at that time you can see these were the accounting policy manuals, how to run the country, and these were actually imported from US. Boxes came with accounting policy manuals, and then we opened up and he went through every aspect of it, how to process a bill, how to set up dealer accounts, SAP, all these were done here. That was my first computer, my office space. And we were six of us, as I said, marketing, finance. We just had two specializations. So marketing, finance, we were the six of us. Probably one to four of us are in US, so one is in India, and others in Baroda. This was my sitting area, and you can see I look very different than what you might not recognize me. In fact, this was the first time when the business plan was being prepared. We had actually a ceremony where people would come and present. Hey, I'm going to now present a marketing plan. I'm going to present a HR plan. I'm going to present a finance plan. So every person had to come and speak on a mic like this. Um, yeah, but as I said, this is all very foundation. We learn. Now you might say, what is this we are doing here? So we at the same table. One day we all gather here and say, hey, we are going to act as if we are the leaders of the company, and we all sat around the table and leaders. Some of the things which an anecdote, for example, is computers. We didn't have computers enough at that time. So when the computers were hired, we had like 5 or 6 computers in the team of 20. So we had to book time, and the secretary of this VP used to maintain a log. So when I had to go and say I need the computer to do something, he will log on. Okay, from Tuesday 1 to Rajesh. So that's our office was in our head office was in Switzerland at that time. So we had to send our presentations on fax at that time. And the problem was Halol did not have a very good connectivity. So while it took us, for example, one day to prepare a presentation, it used to take us 6 to 7 hours sometimes just to send the fax. And it will just keep on one page after other, one page after other, to keep on going. And it used to be very frustrating that, hey, the work is done, we need to submit, we need to go home. And so that was my very early career days. I mean, some of the things when even I think back, I'm like, hey, were we doing this? Ancient, very ancient.
So if you were to differentiate Amazon's work environment and General Motors, what would be the major learnings from both the industries?
That's a great, that's the question I love to answer. And that's something which General Motors is a very, very, let's say, structured and organized company. It was, more than 100 years old, very nicely, processes, very well defined, everything you would have, how to do this. On the other hand, Amazon is completely opposite of that. It took me almost a year to kind of get used to the fact that there are no policy manuals. There are no, let's say, structured way to do things. So Amazon is like a day one company. It is still a day one company. So where everyone kind of does everything, or So it took a while to adjust to that from a very, very organized way to a almost chaotic operating environment. Second, I've noticed on Amazon side is that some companies are good to make, they're good at making big changes. Some companies are good at making changes fast. Amazon is good at making big changes and fast at the same time. You do that. My biggest change was that we don't have PowerPoint in Amazon, and all my 20 years of experience was a very PowerPoint heavy experience. We have Word documents in Amazon, so for everything we need to write 6-page Word document, and that is a big change from my perspective. Um, the other is the employee profile is very, very different. We are very young, very tech savvy people. Um, very, I would say, the way they think, the way they approach is very different. So I had to adapt a lot to come to the way of operating that, with the team here. So that's a it's a good change, and it keeps on evolving for us also as a person. What worked before not. I remember the first time I came to Amazon, and there was a meeting with the VP there. And it was an operations report, operations uh, performance review. So I prepared almost like 4 or 5 supporting answers and answers, questions, and like that. I go to the meeting, and there the gentleman is sitting there, and everybody is sitting, in the room, in the this. Somebody's squatting, somebody's sitting on the window sill, somebody just putting on a laptop he's doing, and then I looked at it, and I had a a supporting presentation for my VP, so I gave it to him, and he said, "Oh, it's okay, thank you." He just keeps it aside, and he opens it, and then it's all tables, tables. Okay, okay. Tell me, what is the issue here? What is the issue here? What is the issue here? Just like this. Okay. And then I come back and I ask my leader, I say, hey, I spent 3 days preparing for the meeting for him, and he didn't even look at it. Well, he said he doesn't need it. We just look at numbers and we go, right? So from that, it took a while to kind of adjust to the style of working. Very, very, very data oriented, very extremely heavy data oriented. And some of uh, the depth at which Amazon looks at things is what it makes so different. And we are not used to that much amount of data having. So
We got a few glimpses of how you have your day at Amazon, but we would like to go a bit deeper. That for you as a CFO, what does a typical day look like at Amazon?
um, I would say typical day as well as a week or a month is I do start off with looking at the daily sales performance report. There is a daily sales report. There is a weekly what do you call it, WBR. It's called weekly business review. Taking care of urgent emails and approvals or giant messages which get over the night, and then taking a look at the initiatives or projects which my team is handling, those ones. And then I have a lot of meetings. So basically, one-on-one with business leaders, some other functions, product and tech reviews. I do take care of some of the functions which you might say, why is finance involved in that? In Amazon, you need to be very much aware about this on the product side, what is happening. And then I, for my own purpose, I allocate time for self learning and self development. So trying to get up to speed on what's happening on the government side. Many of my functions are related to, let's say, regulations changing in Europe, for example, on property rights. Similarly, on law, across the world, especially the e-commerce taxation and getting more of digital services under tax purviews is in. Um, and then I spent time. We have to read a lot of documents. As I said, there are no PowerPoints in Amazon, so a lot of time is allocated to read documents as well as write many of the documents. We have to write a lot of documents and review some of the documents which are prepared by the team. Um, and I do try to spend some time for understanding some of the product features which are happening, the new product side, the tech side, what's happening on that side. So that's kind of makes most of my day. Because my teams are also across the globe, so my day starts early, and I don't follow the traditional working hours. So my day ends pretty late also, where I have calls with conference calls with, let's say, team in China, Singapore. But that's a typical day, a typical week
as a CFO.
for my business. Yes.
So Amazon is known for its reinvestment strategy, and here goes my next question. It's known for its reinvestment strategy and low margins in certain sectors. How do you balance profitability and growth at Amazon?
So we, compared to the other traditional, companies, Amazon focuses very much on long-term free cash flow. So as our Jeff Bezos has said that we will focus on free cash flow, and it's okay that will be misunderstood in his words for a long period of time. Uh, so when we talk of free cash flow focus, basically we say first let's look at the customer experience, and where do we how do we gain the CX of the customers. So in terms of profitability, we have what's it there are some businesses which are high margin for Amazon, like the AWS or web services, which are high margin for Amazon. Ads is a high margin for Amazon. Where we have third party sellers selling on Amazon, we have good margins there. And then we have low margin, products, which called as low ASP products. So we try to balance that. Similarly, we look at product categories. So when we have, let's say, low margin categories like groceries or mobiles, where we have some high margin product categories like fashion or luxury goods, we try to balance that. Uh, in some cases, we have segments which are, let's say, low margin. In some cases, we want to invest our money in some certain, let's say, sectors. But we also offset it with some of the other sectors where we are making money. And then geographically, like India, for example, we are still not profitable yet. International operations of Amazon retail is such a low margin. It's still under, we have what is called as part to profitability. So we are working on balancing the high profitable, let's say, from Europe or North America with international. Um, One of the things which we said, hey, that in new markets or some cases where profitability is challenged, we say it's okay to be grow or become fat. And when you say fat, it means our cost is more than the revenue. But then once you are fat, then you become fit. So then we start, going into low margin selection and stuff like that. So, and then cost. How do we reduce the cost to serve? So that's how we manage. But the overall thing is we focus on customer experience and trying to make sure that long term free cash flow is we're generating. Uh, yeah, that's good.
So, talking about the finance perspective, how does financial data analytics shape Amazon strategies?
Um, in a big way. For example, if you are working like as I was working in an automobile company, at the most we have, let's say, six models. We have variants, so 30, 40 models you need to forecast. In Amazon, we have about millions and millions of products which are there on the site. So without technology, it is impossible to do forecasting or strategy. So we did, we let's say we depend a lot on technology to do some of our work. For example, dynamic pricing. We are able to do pricing for millions of products on using simulations to do that. We we use a lot of technology or analytics on what is called as customer preference or web lab, where we say that, hey, if we have to if we have a feature, let me give an example. uh, Credit card offers. Okay, we get these credit card offers. So we have a process by where say, if the on the home page which is there, if a credit card offer is kept versus let's say if the same offer was put in what is called a checkout page, the last stage, we found that the revenue which is generated is much more just by moving that. So that's an example of how we're using web lab, which is called web lab, to do this kind of simulations on projections. Another area where technology is heavily used is inventory planning. In compared to some of the other e-commerce companies, Amazon has a very high inventory turnover. So how do we forecast inventory by using technology and analytics to do that? Fraud detection is another area where we have, on the website, we have got so many bad actors also. So we use technology for processing billions of transactions, and almost 2 to 2.5 million transactions are blocked before, suspected transactions are blocked before they move ahead. Another area we use technology quite a bit, or analytics, is on how much, for example, will be simulation of uh, uh, let's say an item put in a box. So if you order a cup, and if you order this pot, there's two, and if I pack in one box, so that's 2 units per box. How would, if I just change this packing by a couple of let's say 3 units in a box, it makes a big difference in this. Um, the other area where analytics is used quite a bit is what do we call as uh, customer life cycle value. So in some cases, let's say we are losing money and on this mug, and let's say you are buying, and even if, or we are not making good money on this, the normal thing is, why should I sell it if I'm not making money on this? But we use analytics to project that, hey, if you are the customer for the next X, time, or X months, or X years, you'll be able to buy X, on Amazon site. So even though we might lose, or you might not make good money by showing this mug to you today, we know that you will gain back to us. So that is for us customer in stock value. So rather than taking it down from the website, we'll keep it as long as it's positive over the long run. So these are very different, let's say, simulation models which are not used traditionally in traditional forecasting or traditional planning purposes, but they are pretty heavily used in Amazon. The other right now which is happening is where we use analytics is customer conversion. So it's like Amazon is like almost like 12 to 13% conversion ratio. So compared to 3 or 4% in normal e-commerce. So what it means is that out of 100 customers who are 100 shoppers who are visiting the website, the likelihood of they actually making a purchase, 12 or 13 of them will actually make a purchase. So doing that kind of analysis to know, okay, how many. We also use analytics to know how much is the prime member performance, how much are prime members spending versus non-prime members. And then, I mean, these are US statistics, but in prime members typically spend $1,400 a year versus non-prime members. So these are the kinds of technology related information which is used for either making strategy or making programs or products. How much time is spent by, as I said, Amazon is a very data heavy company. We exactly know how much time is spent on a screen. Not even, I'm not saying you clicked something, you just were there on a page. How many, how much time you were spending on this particular site, how much time you spent on customer reviews, how much time you spent on looking at the product features. Each we map what is called as customer journey, we map from end to end, and use analytics to find where how can we make it faster for a customer to or let's say make it easier to make a purchase. So analytics plays a very, very big role in all these, activities. And we use analytics on simulations, as I said. If I offer X feature in terms of, it could be very simple as clicks. We call it, how much clicks are there for a, in the same example, if you went from searching for a particular item till the time you actually bought it, how many clicks it went through. And we say, hey, if it took you 12 clicks, can we do it in 10? Can we do it in 9? So that's how it will go. When we talk of, there's something called latency. So when we look at the latency of a feature, sometimes we think, is it really? We talk of milliseconds. That hey, this product feature refreshed in 0.12, seconds versus 0.10 seconds. So 2 milliseconds difference. Many of our metrics are going up to decimal point 3. The reason why this is important is we have like billions and billions of transactions which happen, and even one milli point can make a big difference, and hence this is not possible without technology. And now the next generation, which is the next shift which is happening, is on AI and using machine language to to incorporate in our daily operations. So whether it is Gen AI or whether it is ML based technologies in this.
So, adding to it, how do you approach financial forecasting and scenario analysis at a company operating on such a large scale?
Yeah, even though the company is a large scale, the way financial forecasts are prepared are, we have what is called as inputs and outputs. Normally in other companies, even in my previous company, we used to say, hey, if I do a financial forecast, what's going to be my revenue, cost of goods sold, marketing expenses. So these are basically, we go by P&L items, right from the top till the profitability of the. In Amazon, it's the other way around. We start with what are the inputs, and when you say inputs, it's like the number of customers which are buying. What's the average of it? How many customers are new versus how many customers we are going to acquire through Prime memberships. So and even though Prime membership also, like once a month, like pay every month, or annual membership. Then we look at the product categories. We look at the segments which are there, and these are all, let's say, the input base. So conversion, number of customers, how much they buy, and once we do that, then we go to the cost side, where we have the logistics cost, we have the shipping costs which are there, and that too. When we look at shipping costs, we will look at how many, let's say, bought pack units are placed in a box. What is going to be my cost from, let's say, middle mile to last mile, which is the last cost when the package is actually delivered to your home. So when you go through all these inputs, then the output, or the P&L, is what it is. We don't go the other way around. So we will prepare that kind of a base scenario, and then we have what is called as high scenario or low scenario, or we call it 80% scenario, 60% scenario, like likelihood of that. That's on this, on the revenue side. And then we factor in things like events. So like in the Great Indian Sale in Diwali, or the Prime Day sales which happen in various countries. So what are the impact of those events which are there? Um, and then after that, of course, any of the normal, let's say, thing which happen, if regulation changes, or if we have more competition pressure, we adjust for that. But again, in whole of this, in some of the countries, especially in like US and Europe, and recently now India, we had what is called an automated forecasting process, where we could do dynamic forecasting or pricing of the deal. In some of the other countries, we do manual. But again, it's a combination of using technology, and but more than the scale, it is the approach. We focus on inputs, and then outputs are what become. We don't go the other way around.
So Amazon works in diverse markets. So where goes my next question is, it operates in diverse markets with varying rules and regulations with economic climates. How do you manage financial risk globally?
Financial
Risks
risk.
globally.
Yeah, I mean, an obvious thing is yes, we operate wherever whichever country or what we call a geography operate. We make sure that we are complying with the rules and regulations. So in many of the cases, our rules are even more stringent than what the the local regulations ask for. But in terms of the risk, some of there is a currency risk which we kind of avoid through hedging or this. There might be political risks where we kind of decide whether to operate or not operate or operate in a different way. In some cases where on a competition side, for example, where we have let's say Amazon is not so strong as some of the other competition, and this is especially true for like Southeast Asia countries. We would partner with a local company to not not have to do everything by our own. When we went to Middle East, for example, we actually came up acquired a company called Souk in Middle East, and that was actually called as Amazon of Dubai or Amazon of Middle East. So we acquired that. Yeah. In India, we have a different model. India has a very different regulations in terms of inventory holding for e-commerce companies. So here we don't operate in that same way. So India has a lot of structural difference, and we try to work around that. In the framework of the country, we try to do that. But yeah, every country is different. Every country needs a different model and approach. Like in South Africa, for example, there is a lot of emphasis on black representation. So whether it is employment, whether it is managerial positions, whether it is supporting the local industry, do we have enough black representation? So we need to create policies and programs to do that, because which is not applicable for some other countries. Yeah.
So with the rise of fintech and
The rise of
financial
fintech.
technology. So in correlation with that, my next question comes up is, how is Amazon innovating in areas like payment systems or financial services?
So in the business which I operate in, one of the areas which let's say payments of fintech is very much is what is called as currency conversion. We call it Amazon Currency Conversion System, ACCS. So what it does is that it offers customers across the world to pay in their own currency. So we offer about I think 60 currencies. So it's not necessary that you have to have in the same US dollars or rupees only. 60 currencies are there. We have Amazon Pay, the digital wallet system. We have that. We also have some other products which are, let's say, specific to US, are around of course credit cards, and we have what is called as coins or digital coins, which are used for in-app purchases or games, for example. But basically, yeah. And then in some countries like Mexico and Brazil, we have installment plans. So whether it is buy now, we call it buy now, pay later, kind of that kind of or interest plans. But in my org specifically, the currency conversion is very is highly used. Currency ability to pay in your own currency, different currencies, and of course the payment types, whether it is wallets, whether it is cards, whether it's direct debit. But yeah, fintech is playing a big role.
The next question, actually, it is not a question. We need an advice from you. What advice would you give to young professionals aspiring to work in technology driven companies like Amazon?
Uh, One advice I would start off is have a little bit of a technical, let's say, skill set or analytical skill set. So when I mean is that let's say familiarity with sequels for data, data mining, Python scripting for data manipulation would be good. Uh, Second would be metrics driven approach. Um, how do we look at metrics which are there to look at a business? Ability to do that would be a good one. Some knowledge about how the e-commerce is working and what are happening on the e-commerce side. If you are considering Amazon as the company, then e-commerce definitely you should have. Another advice would be to able to see the relations between different parts of the business and how do they impact each other. If we try to operate in silos, I'm going to look at only this side and not looking at the other side. It becomes really difficult to become a full professional. So trying to do that would be good. But yeah, so some analytical skills, developments around outside, awareness about e-commerce space, the competition, because competition is really, and now the latest thing would be familiarity on the machine language models which are happening right now. So whether it is in Gen AI, um, I advise some of my people to do. You're familiar with prompt engineering, so go do some courses on prompt engineering. That will be a very it's an evolving space which is there. Even something even I'm also learning by myself. Yeah, having upskill, skill yourself with the technology will be my advice.
As the whole podcast is going at its own pace, to add some fun, we are having a rapid fire with us. And so, yeah, we'll start with the rapid fire round. Yeah. Quickest decision you have ever made as a CFO?
How much time in the rapid fire do I have?
It's a quickie.
The quickest decision. we we decided to stop one. Yeah, I can tell you one. There was one case where some of the approvals were not coming in, and business team was not helping me on that. I just rejected a chain which had 20 approvals before me, and that caused a big havoc with Mark saying, "Hey, now that issue rejected at the last stage, you need to restart again." But yes, it was a pretty high cost decision.
My next question is the biggest mistake you have learned from.
Biggest mistake I've learned from is on I would say on in one of the countries where we operate. I would name the country. We underestimated the impact of on speed of delivery. It was a pretty heavy mistake, I would say. But then we kind of got it up, and when it came to the next country, we took care of. But yes,
The next question, one piece of advice for young professionals.
one piece of advice: always keep on, do not, let's say, don't pass a day where you haven't learned something new. Whether it is day one of your career after you, or whether you are many years into this, it should not happen that a day passed where you didn't learn something new.
Next question, what's your favorite financial metric?
For me, profit.
Up next question is what's the biggest challenge leaders face today?
The biggest challenge leaders, of business leaders or finance leaders, any leader.
Business and finance.
I think the biggest challenge is the speed at which technology is coming, and speed at which some of the technological innovations on machine language and AI space. How there is so much power there. How to harness that is the challenge, and the companies who will be able to do that harnessing of the powers of AI will be the ones who are going to be the next 25 years successful companies.
If you were to have one superpower, what it would be?
If you could have one superpower, what would be? I empathy, empathy with the team.
So, which one is your favorite book?
Lots of books. My It's hard to pick a favorite one, but I like the one from Jay Shankar, S. Jay
Yes.
Shankar on in India. It was a very nicely written book. I like that.
What's the best advice you have ever received?
The best advice I have received from my one of my finance leader was to make sure that you take care of the people who are part of your team. Make sure that their success is your success is depending on their success. But if they make a mistake or if they you take up the, the the blame on you.
How do you stay updated with the latest trends in the finance?
Normally I have a couple of magazines which I sponsor too, but now I also use ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives me a lot of it's much easier to kind of get information on this. We have our own GPT equivalent also, but yeah, those are the way I kind of do.
The up next question is, what's the most exciting thing happening in the world of finance right now?
I think the exciting thing happening is this. A lot of the traditional functions of finance have moved away, whether it's shared services or like that. Now it is more on how are we going to use Gen AI or generative AI to do some of the work for finance. That's going to be a big needle mover now.
That's all for the rapid fire round. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, those are tough ones. Some of the questions are tough.
So that was amazing. As we wrap up this insightful episode of Virasat, the Alumni Podcast, we are truly inspired by Rajesh Sir's career and his incredible journey. His story is a testament to what can be achieved through patience, perseverance, and unwavering dedication to excellence.
From navigating diverse markets to driving financial decisions that align with Amazon's visionary culture, Rajesh insights remind us to embrace challenges as opportunities. As Napoleon Hill once said, patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your journey.
Thank
Thank you
you.
to our listeners for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and keep thriving for greatness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.